Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Humanitarian Horizons, Christina DiArcangelo Unveiled. I'm so excited today to have yet another fun guest on my show. I'm going to introduce you to Vincent Minetti, who I am going to turn over to him so that he can introduce himself properly. Vinny, thanks for joining me today.
Christina, it is a pleasure to be here. I was looking forward to this for the last few weeks now that we've been discussing things. You were kind enough to be a guest on my show. And so I really appreciate you putting me on yours. And I'll tell you what, this has been something that the more I know about you and get to know about you, we have so many commonalities and we've spoken off screen about. And it's just really great to be here. And I love what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate everything you do. Why don't you tell everybody what it is that you do for a living, besides being on your own podcast, but also you're involved in screening. So I think it would be awesome if you could share that with the listeners and I almost said followers, listeners and viewers.
So I'm a budding screenwriter, filmmaker, where actually just began a collaboration with a dear friend of mine that I've known for over 22 years. And we're going to be shooting our first short film together this March called The Pasta and Cheech Gang. It's a mob comedy. And I think it's so far, it's really hitting a lot of buttons. And we have Johnny Williams, who is lovingly known as Johnny Roast Beef. He's from Goodfellas. He was the guy with the Cadillac. And we have an amazing behind the camera crew that, you just go to IMDb, look up Pasta and Cheech Crew, you start to see some of the people that we have. Wonderful editor, Bobby Ferretti, who's a friend of Sal's, who is a big Hollywood editor who's coming on board, our DP. Like, there's just too many names to mention, but they're wonderful people that are very experienced, very talented, that are used to doing big budget movies, that love our story and want to be a part of it. So I wrote the screenplay. Sal has the story. He's directing it. We're both producing it. So the goal here is to make it into get some awards from film festivals and really get a feature out of it or a series. So besides that, I also have my show on YouTube called Vinny Presents, and also new to Hamilton Radio. I'll be with Hamilton Radio every other Wednesday. They're out of Trenton, and that's also called Vinny Presents. They liked what I did with YouTube, so now I have my own radio show, which I'm very grateful for, and that's also picked up by iHeartRadio, which is huge. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm a novice to it. But I have to say, just me joining the social media space and being part of Instagram, I'm not great on TikTok, but my real forte is Instagram. That's where I've built a lot of my audience over the past year. And I met great people, including yourself. And it's really a testament to the ability of what can be done if you apply yourself and you are a go-getter. And I think there's a lot of room for anyone who's listening out there, and any of your viewers, that a lot of good things can happen if you apply yourself. And so I'm very blessed, and I'm very happy. That's pretty much my story.
I am really excited for your film. And, I was just thinking when you were talking, I thought, you know what? You know that I have a book coming out because I said it on your podcast last week. And that was really the first time I've talked about that out loud in that type of setting. I've been kind of just quietly writing this thing along with everything else I have to do for work. And I was thinking to myself, if the book does well enough, perhaps we should shoot a film about it, because it happened in Chester County, Pennsylvania, the crime against my mother, and the courts and everything else, and the perpetrators are all located in Pennsylvania. So maybe this will be something that we could do together collaboratively, should the book be successful. And I think it will be, and it's going to also not only shine a light onto elder abuse, which there aren't many films out there that talk about elder abuse and all these issues that arise in society today, but it also has the self-help aspect to it. So people will get something out of this, I think, this film that will help them. God forbid they're ever found in that type of situation. So I didn't mean to tie it back to me, but I just was thinking, wow, this would be pretty cool if we could turn this into a film.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea. And I wish you you a lot of luck and blessings with that project. But yeah, we would love to talk to you about it. And I think that you're absolutely right. There's not enough of a spotlight on these type of things, and I'm sure it happens a lot more frequently, unfortunately, than most people know. And I know that I hear stories all the time of stuff like that, and it's heartbreaking. I mean, to think that a person works their whole life and suffers their whole life and tries to raise their family and do the right thing, and then what do they have to look forward to? Being treated like worse than an animal. It's just, there's so many things, again, that it's heartbreaking. So I think we tend, in my opinion, we tend not to treat elder abuse as in society as much as we should. We should really be big the ante on checking on our neighbors, making sure the stuff's reported, and making sure everything's, they're protected. They're very vulnerable. They're just like children are vulnerable.
Exactly. I mean, children, and I mean, because and we're going to get into our topic today, but if we compare to how it works in the justice system, there's child youth services in Pennsylvania, and in other states they're called different things, but in our state, in the Commonwealth, that's called child youth services, right? And then there's elder abuse department that sits right next door to domestic violence in Chester County. So they have their own sector. You know what I'm saying? So that should be very clear that you shouldn't be doing things like this, because there are supposed to be people watching over these peculiar, so to speak, sensitive populations of humanity.
No doubt. I mean, and for those politicians out there that maybe listen, I think this is something that you have to make one of your strong points. We need more leaders to step up and do more for that community. There's a lot going on in the United States, but this is a topic that really needs to be handled. With that being said, I mean, there's a certain amount of my father, God rest his soul, used to say something that was, I guess I didn't take too seriously until after he passed, but then it made sense, I guess, now that I'm a little bit older. He says, I want to just have enough money so that when I'm older, I can wipe my own mouth. And I took it as a joke when he said it, but then I understood now, because, it's tough if you're not, especially if you're not financially independent and you're older and you're just struggling. Even it's a bad thing. And if you don't have a loving family or people that are around, and just because you have a bunch of kids, they may not be around, or it gets really scary. So please check on your parents, check on your neighbors, check on your aunts or uncles. It's important.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely is. So today, the reason why I asked you to be on the show was because we are both Italian Americans. We are both in business, in different sectors of business, but we have had the privilege of working as Italian Americans in society and in business. And one of the things that I've noticed about my work in these multiple patient-facing facets is that I sometimes am discriminated against because I am Italian American. So as far as when I was opening up a bank account for my nonprofit that shares the same name as my for-profit company, because it's a sister, these two companies, I had received a lot of questions about what this nonprofit does. Even though I have a full website, we've had a press release go out and all these things, and we had a kickoff for the nonprofit when my dad had passed away. That was his memorial. We did a fundraiser for the nonprofit. And then I had people, that were invited to come and celebrate my father's life. So I kind of was like, what are you talking about? Why are you asking me so many? At first, I didn't understand why they were asking me so many questions, right? Because I don't think like that. And so then I realized, oh, it's because my name is Christina DiArcangelo. They think I'm going to embezzle money from my for-profit to my nonprofit, so I don't have to pay taxes on all the money that I make on the for-profit side. So I was like, whoa, hold on a second. And then when I opened up a bank account for one of my AI bots, it's called Cannabot. And so, yes, it works in the cannabis space, and it doesn't do any drug dealing. It sits on Alexa. It's a skill. It helps patients. I got it again. Now, this was several years later. We're talking 2018, but it happened to me again. And I was like, why does this keep happening? I have not done anything illegal. Why are you aligning me with these crazy ideas that I'm doing something wrong? What has been your experience?
Well, no doubt about it. I mean, being Italian American, a lot of times you'll hear wisecracks, or, people have predisposed notions that, somehow you're corrupt, or you're affiliated with, bad people, or you're up to something, because it casts a very dark shadow. It discredits the achievements that you're trying to do personally, professionally. It's just an ugly thing, I think the country has been so in love with the gangster image that they tend to forget that it hurts people because most Italians are not affiliated with crime and
No.
murder and, trafficking and drugs and stuff like that. So it's and I think Italians are probably guilty of not doing enough to speak up. Not so much the average person like yourself or myself, but a lot of these groups maybe need to start pounding the table a little bit harder. There were some groups I think that did speak up very adamantly about it in the past. I don't see so much of it anymore. I just would love to see a lot of these groups do more to empower our culture, focus on the beautiful things. Because let's face it, I mean, first thing you think of if you're not Italian, maybe this is best stereotypical, but you may think, okay, oh, Vinny, he must be a wise guy. He must be, connected. But what about our culture of the Renaissance and beautiful, amazing artists and sculptors
Music.
and geography and the sciences and you name it, the Vatican, or like there's a million things you could talk about that Italy's been involved with. They probably brought civilization to humanity. I mean, it's but we don't talk about that. We talk about, oh, this one, that one, this movie, that movie. It's I have to say it's something that and I think I hate to say, but I think Italians too take some sort of sick pleasure in reinforcing that stereotype.
Yeah, I know, like, even we talked about my father on your podcast, about the blue collar upbringing and stuff. And my dad was a Teamster. And he was Italian, and he was one of one of the big Teamsters because he was a negotiator, for the people that were also Teamsters on the turnpike. And so people would say stuff to me about my father being a Teamster when I was younger. And I was so upset by that because my dad was not a gangster. I mean, he liked to play cards, poker and stuff like that. But that's legal. He would go to the casino in Atlantic City and play. So I just didn't understand what the obsession was relative to his involvement in the Teamsters and the Italian American culture. And it used to make me really pissed when it happened because my dad was a good guy. He was just trying to help people. He was trying to make sure that their rights were always preserved, from a labor standpoint. What does that have to do with mob life? Like, that doesn't even make sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's not enough sensitivity to these things, I think, and by and large. And I think, again, I start with us. I start with the Italians and the Italian Americans here that need to reinforce that and stop.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point earlier about the groups, like, I think the groups need to do a better job. I mean, I don't have time to start another group or company because I'm quite busy. But I feel like the ones that are out there, they could do a better job educating on our culture. It's not just about pasta and gangster life and things of that nature, or the fact that we wear black all the time. I just love black. My whole closet is almost black. Today I wore blue. You can't really tell. It's a dark, dark blue. But you know what I'm talking about. You get wisecracks about that when you go into a funeral. No, I just like black. I love black. I've always worn black. As a matter of fact, when I had my son, my dad made me promise him that I would always put my son in colors, not black all the time. So I still do. I abide by his request, even though he's passed along. But the point is that we could do better, right? And so I think today, what one of our initiatives was coming on here and talking about some of the things that we do as professionals, specifically what you do as a professional. I think that the whole idea was so that we could kind of shine a light on top of this, and maybe people would think a little differently about us, Italian Americans, but also a call to action to the other Italian Americans in, our culture and in the United States that we bump into or we know or whatever, to be more collaborative rather than just kind of being in your box and doing your thing, like looking outside the box and making sure there's equality.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, and I think that the appeal will probably fall on deaf ears when it comes to leaders, because I think the problem that we continue to face, and I'm sure a lot of the people listening will agree that are Italian or Italian descent, is that we know we need to stick together. Well, how do you stick together? You have to overcome a lot of these jealous tendencies, the showmanship, the competitiveness. The good thing and bad thing about Italians, if I may say so, is the competitive. It's a good thing because we want to keep climbing and reaching a new level. Sometimes we forget that we shouldn't be stepping on somebody else in the meantime. So we have to competitiveness again has to be taken into account so much that it's collaborative. Like you said, we have to collaborate. If you're part of an Italian American organization, there's good ones. I don't want to bash them, but if you're part of them and you realize that all they want to do is sit around and have coffee and espresso and biscotti and talk about Sinatra and Frankie Valli, you're not going to. If that's what you want to do, then that's a social club. But if you want, me, I've always been a person of action. I want something to be done. I want us to progress. I
Right.
was a leader of one many years ago. I was really excited about it, and I realized they just wanted some young kid that's going to bring more young kids in, and this way they can enjoy their lavish parties in New York and go to their their big swanky balls and give each other awards. That's not what it's about. So if you're part of an organization that sounds like that, then you should get out and should vote in leaders that are actually going to create self-help or mutual aid sort of societies, which is what they did when they came over years ago. And maybe you could pool your resources and start doing business together. Maybe you can start raising money and have scholarships for Italian American kids that don't have money to go to school.
Hmm.
Do something. Do
Right.
something. Don't talk about the good old days and no, who could speak better dialect, and it starts to get really like stupid after a while.
Yeah. Yeah. The dialect, especially because in my family, my mom's side was Northern and my dad was Sicilian, right? My dad's side. So we had that diverse. That's why I'm really a blonde because of my mom's side. And but I'm built like a Sicilian. So I'm a very odd, mix of people. And, but the dialect was very hard because I speak both, but I'm not fluent. And sometimes I like kind of commingle, if you will. And it's very hard, it was hard for me growing up. And this was Italian. I mean, we were Italian, all holistically Italian. And even like skin coloring, comments made about my, my skin coloring, because I get, I'm a little bit tanner than the Northern Italians, you know what I'm saying? So I got a lot of crap when I, even within my own, family. And it was like, geez, this is ridiculous. And I think that even like when we first started the show, we were talking about what you do for a living and me just innocently saying, hey, I got a book, as maybe we could do something if the book does well. I don't want to do it if I don't do well with the book because no one will watch the film. And I don't want to waste your time and everybody else's time on your side. But right there was a good example of two people coming together. We're both Italian Americans and we both have some mutual things in common and we have common goals. So why not embrace these things across our culture and just being more mindful and educating more, I think would be very helpful.
Yeah, and I think you have to give people, a serious, tangible thing for them to want to be involved in. Like, again, I don't have the time to start an organization, nor do I think I should. Maybe if I became independently wealthy later on in life, sure. But did we have existing ones that have, that are out there that we don't have to reinvent the wheel? We just have to, we have to fix the wheel. So what does that mean? We need to, like, for instance, I know a lot of people that want to be dual citizens. Whether it's nostalgia or whether they may want to live in Italy, whatever. Why do they have to pay $10, $15, $20,000 to do all the paperwork, this and that? Why, with all these organizations and the consulates and all these different apparatuses, why do we have to spend all this money to, there's people like myself, maybe a knighthood by the Republic of Italy or even some of these other organizations. Some people get in because they have a ton of money and they have, high degrees. They don't provide enough access for the common person like you or I to excel.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they should have a ton of professionals, judges, lawyers. I mean, there's a ton of wealthy Italian Americans out there. Maybe we need little pockets and little sub organizations or subcommittees where if I want to be a lawyer, I'm a 20-year-old kid or whatever. Now I go to this organization, they put you in touch with other people that have already achieved success and they tell you what you got to do. Maybe they even have a fund that you can access, or you can borrow money from your own group. Or maybe you want to buy properties and be a speculator. You go to this Italian American group, and if as long as you qualify, boom, they'll co-sign and they'll help. Enough of the espresso and biscotti. Let's actually do something.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's so funny. You read my mind because I was thinking, I didn't want to interrupt you while you were talking. I wanted to say, what about a fund? Okay, I've had to raise money. I'm sure you've had to raise money in your lifetime so far, and you're going to continue to raise money to do what you need to do. Same here, right? And I have not found any funds in our culture that I could raise against for my tech company. That's what we were raising money for, my CFO and I. And it's like, wow, like, how come there isn't anything out there for us to kind of bank on and say, hey, listen, I'm not saying they give it to us just because we're Italian. I'm saying we're qualified, obviously, to receive these funds and pay these people back in a reasonable term without too much juice, i.e. interest on there. But the point is, there isn't anything. And, maybe at some point somebody will start, maybe we'll end up doing something in the near future through some of the funds that we've been successful in raising that were humanitarian. Why not, try to do something with them, because they already know who I am and they know my work, and they know that, I'm proud to be an Italian-American woman in business, raising a little boy, who's Italian-American as well, and African-American. My kid's biracial. So he's got the best of both of us. I feel he has so much cultural. And that's why when I posted up my post yesterday for Black History Month, I specifically wrote about him and the fact that we should embrace this. When I had him, I didn't set out to create this wonderful cultural diversified family unit. That wasn't it. It was just, I fell in love and I had a kid. And now my son is navigating this world of being biracial, and then seeing things on the Italian side and seeing things on the African-American side, and kind of always being in the middle of all of it. Because he just brought it up to me 2 nights ago. He's like, Mom, it's tough. It's tough being me, Mom.
Yeah, there's a lot of struggles. I mean, and again, I think we're absolutely on the same page. We need to, again, leaders, if you're watching, think about what we're talking about here. The money aspect. I know there's a lot. It shouldn't just be all about money, but as a people, why not? Like that, people are all struggling to help each other, whether it's employment. There's a lot of people that are unemployed. So let's do an employment. I don't know. I wish I had the time, because I probably would create like something like no one's ever seen. But there's enough people that are there in those positions that they need to pick up the ball and run with it, and stop worrying about the what gala they're being invited to, or what they pretend they have, or posturing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have time for that. It's time to really to do something with millions of people, tens of millions of people that are here that want to do something.
I agree with you. Well, thank you so much, Vinny, for being on today. It was great to catch up. I feel lucky that I got to see you 2 weeks in a row. But I enjoy all these things that you put on Instagram. I just love your spirit. I'm so thankful to know you. And I really appreciate you coming on and taking time out of your very busy day on a Friday to come and meet with me and talk about our culture and how we can do better to support it.
No, it's my pleasure. Likewise, you're a wonderful person. I love what you're involved in, and you can count on me to always be supportive of you and all of your beautiful projects. And I think that people sometimes, well, there's no coincidences. So we got together, we did this thing, and God just puts people together sometimes for a great thing. So I'm blessed to know you. And again, it's anytime if we can do something collaborative for your viewers out there. If they want to, if you don't mind, I guess I'll plug myself. If they want to watch me, I'm on YouTube, Vinny Presents. We're nearing 900 subscribers. So that's cool. And it's been like less than a year, and a special little side message to people, because I love to empower people, is do it, get out there. Social media is a beautiful thing if used properly, as is evident between myself and Christina right here. And go out there, achieve your dreams. Don't get stuck in depression. Don't get in a world of if onlys. Don't get into the self-gratification. Suffer, sacrifice, keep working hard each and every day. Things will work out. Just stay focused. And also, if anybody would love to email me, I'm at vinnyfromsp@gmail.com, VINNY, Vinny from SP. Vinny from South Philly. That's my moniker on Instagram and TikTok as well. Enough plugging to myself. Christina, you've been wonderful. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. And good luck with your new show. I'm excited for you. And I'm excited to see all the amazing things you're going to do. And thank you again for being on my show. And thank you to all of our viewers and listeners for tuning in to Humanitarian Horizons, Christina DiArcangelo Unveiled.